welcome to Bikes, Burpees, and Backhands. My guest today is Mr. Tony Tran. Tony's one of my former students, went to Georgia State. He's got a master's in athletic training. He's licensed and certified in athletic training. He interned at Georgia State University, sports medicine, completed rotations with a lot of high schools and rehab clinics and medical clinics, also went to Texas Tech. We used to call him the missile man in drills. He's worked at an orthopedic clinic in Lawrenceville. Very glad to have Tony, not only just from his expertise, which I'm sure can help me in my athletic endeavors, but also a lot of our followers out at Bike Friendly Atlanta and around the DMTA tennis scene. Welcome, Tony. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Never thought I'd be on a podcast, but it's pretty neat, and to be interviewed by you it's definitely an honor. well, I don't know about an honor, but we've always along pretty well, except for when we started doing running and stuff. Everybody used to call me a bunch of names. I'm sure I was just throwing a few of those out. You knew what was best for us, and footwork and all that, very important in tennis, and helped us all out a lot. So thank you. I wouldn't be the missile man without you.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I'm gonna let you get into something that you requested, and I totally understand it. Explain to our followers what an athletic trainer is, or a master's in athletic training, what it encompasses, and what your real job is.
Yeah, sure. An athletic trainer, they are healthcare professionals. We usually get confused with personal trainers, fitness trainers, but in reality, we're healthcare professionals. What we do is we work to first prevent, evaluate, manage athletic injuries. And when I say athletic injuries, it's not just for athletes, it's for all people of different sizes, different ages, since most of the things that we do in life are athletic in nature. So anyone from spraining an ankle on the basketball court to maybe someone having back pain because they're picking up a box wrong. There's with those type of injuries, there can always be a use for athletic trainers. So think healthcare professional before you think about fitness, even though we do know a little bit about fitness, because we do get some education and fitness training and exercise. We're mostly focused on the healthcare aspect of it.
Right. That makes way too much sense. Unfortunately, like you said, a lot of people are misguided or misdirected, or just don't know quite the definition of what one versus the other is, and that's a good thing for you to point out. A couple of questions. I guess we'll get right into the questions me and you talked about, and you can pull up some props if you want to. Like I said, this will be on our YouTube channel so that people can view what you have to show them, and that may help them.
Right.
We talked about a little bit about, and I'm always a big advocate of icing, knowing that I don't have any zippers on my knees. I'm probably not going to change much of that until I, pretty much cash the bucket out. But how often should a player ice, a heavily used joint like a shoulder for tennis, and maybe knees and stuff for tennis, or a lot of athletics? How often should they ice, or what should they ice?
Okay. Icing's worked out great for you. I think it's a great tool to kind of help numb up pain, get rid of that pain after a hard workout, maybe after an injury occurs. You slap on an ice bag and the pain kind of goes away. But actually, with new studies coming out, it's actually showing that ice may not be the best thing for prolonged use for general soreness. Now, with that being said, if you just sprain your ankle or twisted your knee and there's lots of swelling and pain, I'm all for an ice bag going on that, just to kind of numb up that pain, numb up that area. But other than that, the inflammation that occurs to a joint or anything after an injury. It's kind of required by the body to kind of start that healing process. So ice actually kind of constricts the vessels that send those byproducts to the joint to kind of help that healing process,
Right.
if that makes sense. So what I generally prefer for someone who's not injured, but maybe is just having soreness to the body part, muscle, joint, I like to recommend more of like an effective cool down after a workout. So maybe, for example, you, Dave, those long bike rides, you usually follow it up with like a slow cool down to kind
Sure.
of get the blood moving, to help increase lymphatic flow, to kind of get those byproducts out of the muscles without
Right.
like pressing it too much. And then afterwards, I would probably do some sort of soft tissue mold, such like foam roll. Do you foam roll at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that kind of helps kind of relax the muscles, gets the muscles contracting to kind of move the byproducts out, like lactic acid,
Sure.
some would used to knowing, to get those kind of byproducts out to kind of relax the muscle, and then maybe use heat before and after to kind of loosen up the muscles.
Right.
Because with ice, you usually use it and it kind of stiffens you up. And I mean, that's good for numbing pain, but I wouldn't want my muscles to be even more stiffer after a hard workout
Right.
than this, But yeah, those are the new studies. But with that being said, if ice works for you, you've used it for years, your
Right.
body, if it works for you, great, But if you want to try heat with foam rolling and using an effective cool down, studies today show that that might be the better way to kind of manage those soreness injuries and whatnot.
So when somebody comes to you, and this is spawning off of those theories, when somebody comes to you and says they have tendinitis, tennis elbow, what causes tennis elbow? Can it be prevented? Can does that make sense? Does
Yeah.
ice not stop inflammation or reduce it just to the point? I know taking Advil and ibuprofen and all that, my biggest question always, since I was probably less than your age now, is if I take 2, 3, 4 Advil, since I'm a big old mule now, how does that ibuprofen know where to go? Whereas ice is right to the joint.
Right. Ice is very localized. You're right about that. So let's go back to the tendinitis question.
Yeah.
So tennis elbow, it's usually caused by improper technique, leading with the elbow, having the wrist in full extension while you're going through that backhand motion. It usually stresses out the tendons on the lateral side of the elbow, and also known as lateral epicondylitis.
Sure.
So improper technique is the main cause. Now, I think the best way to prevent tennis elbow and to manage it is to maybe find a great coach like yourself to teach you proper mechanics. No, that's you. That's you. Dave, you didn't endorse me, though, by the way. You didn't pay me to say this. I'm saying it on my own. Okay?
I agree.
You get a good coach like Dave to teach you proper mechanics, to properly hit a backhand or a forehand to kind of reduce the stress that happens at the elbow.
Okay.
I think that's the best thing for it. Now, treating tennis elbow, if you do have it already, a good way, initially, if there's pain, go ahead, ice it, numb it up, get that pain. Now, does it reduce inflammation with the ice? It constricts the blood vessels, so it may temporarily reduce the inflammation, but again, inflammation's needed for that healing process.
Right.
So kind of need it to go there. So, don't ice it. Will it make a huge difference? I don't think so.
Sure.
But I think the best way to reduce or get rid of that problem is to definitely have better mechanics.
Okay. That makes sense. So go back to the old theory of like sprain an ankle, or you could even throw tendinitis or anything like that in there. They used to say usually you would ice for 48 to 72 hours, and then after that you start doing a hot cold contrast, which is heat followed by cold, which is getting some blood flow in there, but yet not so much that it starts ballooning back up. Because with a lot of injuries like sprained ankles and things like that, you don't want all that inflammation and all that blood flow, because you got to get rid of that before you start. You hope you don't go to surgery, but you don't want to go in there with a bunch of inflammation or swelling. They're going to wait for that to go down. So does ice not stop that swelling if that's the initial, cause problem?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought up that contrast method that's going from the ice to the heat.
Right.
Now, I mean, you're right about the ice. The normal protocol is to ice for 48 to 72 hours after an injury. Now, with that, I mean, again, the ice, it does constrict the blood vessels.
Sure.
It does help to kind of not get the new fluid in there.
Right.
Which is what we actually want. So when you actually do the ice, it kind of numbs up the pain. You get that good, numbing effect. But
Sure.
then if you follow with heat, you're causing vasodilation. So that's causing the blood vessels to kind of dilate, so you can get that new lymphatic flow and blood cells to the injured site to kind of help repair the injury site. So, right. I mean, that definitely is a great way to kind of manage the swelling and the pain.
Sure.
For sure. Now, I think with an ankle sprain, the old idea was they call it RICE, right?
Correct.
The ice, elevation, compression.
Right.
Now we're leaning towards let's take the muscle and the joint through range of motion exercises as pain is tolerated. So you try to move the joint in a range of motion so that you don't lose that range of motion.
Sure.
As much as the body will tolerate. Now, the body is smart. The body will tell you, oh, that's too much pain. You need to back off. That's when you need to, know your limits.
Sure.
But now they're encouraging people to kind of do what you can to kind of speed up that recovery factor and to get back on the court faster.
Sure.
I could say, yeah.
Yeah. So let me pose this question to you. This scenario: Tony Tran sprains his ankle, rolls it on a wide forehand or whatever, try to stop and come back. And you sprain it. We get you off the court. We put some ice on it. We have you ice it down for whatever. And I know Tony Tran as my student. I know he is just itching. It kills an athlete to sit. Right. So to tell somebody like an athlete especially that you need to get up, I think that's kind of a moot point. I think you're going to be getting up the next day or even 2 days later if it's really a bad pain, and you're going to start hobbling around. You're going to get a crutch and hobble, and you're going to know you're going to push it so far because you can't stand to not get back out there. So right. To some degree, I understand one side of high-level athletes' mentality, but then not everybody's a high-level athlete. So that's where you come in and go, okay, Betty Sue or Billy Bob, doesn't matter. You need to get up and walk around on it around the house as much as you can tolerate. And that helps their flexibility to not lose it. I get that. I totally understand that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, in this situation, it helps to have someone like an athletic trainer or a physical therapist to guide you along the rehabilitation stage of what you can and cannot do. Because, I mean, if I just sprain my ankle, I don't want to be walking on it immediately.
Right.
I may do some range of motion exercises with maybe like a TheraBand. I may use this TheraBand to kind of help, get that range of motion by just pumping my ankle to kind of get fluid swelling out to kind of help enforce that joint with that range of motion
Right.
that I want to keep rather than losing.
Right. Anything else on, tendinitis, inflammation of joints, taking care of knees and shoulders? Anything else you want to add to that little topic before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of commercial products out there that you can get. You might see them, with the forearm straps to prevent tendinitis of the elbow. You'll see the patella tendon straps that go
Right.
around the knee. Um, those things are great for reducing the force that kind of goes through that tendon when you're doing
Sure.
activity. Uh, but again, remember that that's like a band-aid solution. Uh,
Right.
to really fix it, you want to have proper technique, proper conditioning when you're playing tennis or running or jumping.
Right.
Um, the big key of it is being conditioned. Some people go out there and they might want to do 30 miles of biking and
Right.
they've done it in years. You're gonna have some, inflammation. So again,
Just a little bit.
yeah, just a little bit. So get yourself a good coach like Dave and get his advice.
Or the next day you'll be visiting Tony Tran.
You don't want that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, on to Thank you for tuning into this part 1 of 3 with Mr. Tony Tran, a certified athletic trainer here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. You can catch parts 2 and 3 within the coming days. Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll have parts 2 and 3 up. You'll also be able to check out this entire video on our YouTube channel at Bike Friendly ATL on YouTube. So look us up. Other videos on there, including clips from pickleball, tennis, and cycling. Please give all cyclists 3 feet out there on the road, and stay tuned for parts 2 and 3 with Mr. Tony Tran. Y'all have a great day.